Yeah, that time of the day. I don't
Well,
know.
do you think anyone else is coming, or?
I'm not quite sure. It seems like it's always three of us plus, one or two
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
I can be the discussion leader because both of you have already, haven't you? Two
Yeah, well,
times?
Twice.
twice.
Okay, yeah.
We did
I've
that
done it
before.
twice, so I can go ahead and do it, and then I don't have to submit anything, so it's fine.
Yeah. None of us has to, right? Because we all did it.
Yeah, it's just I think Zach and JT haven't done it, so
Hmm.
Yeah.
there's time.
I guess they were supposed to do it.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought, but
That's okay.
I wasn't with it enough to text them or email.
I know I didn't do anything either. I was on top of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you all
Okay.
see or hear me?
I can hear you, and I can see you.
Yep.
Because it has blank screen on me. I can see you two.
Oh.
Huh, yeah, we can see you.
No, we can
Okay,
see.
so if it's recording, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say this is kind of cool. I was up at 6 o'clock this morning. Why? I don't know why. I got on the computer, turned it on, and about a minute later, my son Skypes me from Japan and had his girlfriend on the Skype too. So I was introduced to my son's girlfriend today. So it was kind of it's been a
Ah.
fun day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what part of Japan is he in?
He's at Kadena, which is right outside Tokyo.
Okay. I grew up in city by Tokyo, Yokohama. So
Yokohama.
part.
She is from Yokohama,
Oh, okay.
so
Okay.
kind of fun.
Well, that's
Small
exciting.
world. Yeah.
It's fun because he started pushing buttons and he learned how to put more than one person on a Skype call. I didn't know about it, so lo and behold, first thing in the morning, I meet his girlfriend. This is
That is
modern
awesome.
technology.
That's good.
Okay, so let's get started. Do you want to run this, or do you want me
Yeah,
to, or what?
I can do it. It's no problem.
Okay.
Okay. Which one of you guys want to, or do you guys both want to kind of talk about employment at will and the exceptions?
When I was reading back the employment at will, if I am understand it correctly, you can be fired at any time and you can quit at any time.
Mhm.
And I thought it was always that you have to put in your notice, or at least, or is that just more courtesy to put in your like 2 weeks notice?
I think
I
that's more
think
courtesy.
for courtesy, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's just so that it gives employers, enough time to find somebody.
Which really, 2 weeks, they're not going to find someone.
Yeah, that's true. But,
Well,
at least that they know.
Yeah. Okay, what they said in here is this is a contract between the employer and employee that is created by the actions of the employer. The employer could imply that the employee will have continued employment by making statements about how well the employee is doing. The employer could also create an implied contract through an employment manual that details termination practices. For example, a 3-strike policy that says they have to give you notice before firing. So even though it could be an at-will employment, it doesn't necessarily mean they can just fire you, I guess. Like well, it does, but if it's in their manual that says, oh, you have to have 3 strikes or this or that, then I think that's one of the exceptions to the rule, if that makes sense.
I think so.
Okay, can you guys think of some other exceptions?
I think um Well, a lot of times, I guess it's written, but a lot of times, like they can fire you technically, but they can't really fire you. They can. It's I guess like employees, well, employers can fire anytime they want, but it doesn't mean that employers won't come back and sue you or do, if there isn't a legitimate reason
Mhm.
or, incident or something that they can, show that they didn't do or they weren't qualified for or whatever it is, the reason for it, then employee can come back and sue. I mean, they have a right to do it anytime,
Yeah.
even. And so I don't know. It's just there is a rules, but um there isn't. I don't know. Like it can go. There's so many different things that they can have
Kind
and
of
they.
sounds like you're talking about like the discrimination status. Like it
Yeah.
covers like the race, national origin, gender, religion, Americans
Yeah.
with Disability Act, the age discrimination. So some of those. I
Yeah.
agree.
Some of them too.
Another one was violation of like public policy, which means terminating an employee for refusing to commit an unlawful act, serving on jury duty, so you can't get fired if you have to serve jury duty,
Mhm.
blowing the whistle, filing for workman's comp, and refusing to date one's boss. Good to know.
Hmm.
I don't want to date her. No. Mm-mm. Now, one of the first reasons there for breach of implied contract, that
Yes.
is that is big in the medical field. You have to qualify specifically for different jobs. You have to have your certification, even your basic CPR certification. If you don't have that, then they can let you go right then and there because
And so that's in a manual, right?
it's in the manual. But before you are hired, you
Yeah.
have to be qualified to be able to do the job.
Yeah.
You have to be qualified. If you can't do CPR, you can't work at a hospital. That's kind of the basics. And so they've got very specific rules that if you miss this criteria, you can't do it. You're done. There's no question.
Okay. Yep. And then the last one was a breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. It says this could come into play when an employer unfairly tries to avoid doing what they agreed to do under the contract by terminating an employee.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
If I'm reading that right, if you were hired for a year and the job gets done in 6 months and they want to release you, you can say, I'm sorry, I'm hired for a year, I should be working for a year. If that is, if I'm reading that thing
I think that's what it's saying. I agree. It's
right.
whatever is in the contract.
They'll just have to find you some other jobs to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can push a broom for 6 months and then you're fired.
Yeah, and to be honest, that happens a lot in construction. People kind of get put onto different jobs so that they don't lose them
Mm-hmm.
until they can find the next job for them. It's
Right.
kind of interesting. Yeah. Okay, we're going to talk about Terry first.
Oh, this was fun reading.
It was interesting at first. I was like, what the heck? Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I understood it a little bit better once I got going.
Well, in fact, when I wrote this, Terry was liked, Phil wasn't. Bottom line, it's one person was liked, we'll cut him some slack. The other person wasn't liked, let's get rid of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see it all the time. You see it all I do, especially at my work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and what was interesting was, which is the one that would call and complain or email the CEO and complain?
Phil,
Oh, right.
he was
Phil
the
would.
one that would complain.
Yeah. So that was one reason they didn't like him, the higher ups.
That, and then Terry was liked by the higher ups. They would go out scuba diving. They would do other things besides work.
Hmm.
So that created issues for the other employees.
Yeah. Plus, that's the reason he got hired, was because he knew him. And how many different interviews did he go through? And they all said no to him. It was like 5 or 6.
5, I think.
Yeah. I was like, and they said normally after it's 2 or 3, maybe 3, they don't. If they're still a no, they don't do anymore. But yeah,
Yeah.
and he was still hired.
Because
Okay, so it says, what impact does Terry have on the company's bottom line?
Well, he wasn't performing.
Yeah. So the company's having to pay for him, and he's not performing, so the company's, could be doing even better if he was performing better.
well, it kind of shows. Well, I think it's kind of weird that he got hired even if he wasn't really, people really didn't like him first. Interviews and stuff that the 5 people said no to. It kind of sets, I don't know, it kind of sets the tone for other people that, it could still, happen. It just matter of knowing people, not, how you're performing or how they think you can be, like if you're qualified or not. And so
Yeah.
I think it's just not so good in that way.
Yeah. So what about Phil? How does he impact the company's bottom line?
Well, Phil was basically he was carried over from a previous hire or from a company takeover. So he wasn't really qualified to do the job, but let's keep him. And I think the big thing about him is he got along with his peers. He didn't get along with management because they would tell him, I think you're wrong. This is what you do it. And then he also had I think my boss' personal vendetta against. He had inappropriately challenged him too many times. This reminds me, if you piss off the boss, you're not going to work. That's bottom line. Don't piss off the boss.
Yeah. So what obligations does the manager have to the company based on that information?
Well, again, Terry was liked, Phil wasn't. Phil could do the job well, or sometimes well. Terry wasn't able to do the job. He would always go to somebody else and say, how do you do this? What do you want done? He basically wasn't doing the job.
Yeah. And in here it says, according to the manager, Terry makes no contribution, so just like you said. So all of his salary and benefits are pure cost. In a company that's only making $300,000 a year, which is not very much, Phil seems to be less of a financial liability because at least he was helping.
Yeah, doing some of the jobs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so based on what we learned about employee, is this okay if I'm going fast? I'm tired.
No, go.
Okay.
This is good.
Based on what we've learned about employment at will and exceptions, what legal obligations could the managers have with Phil and Terry? So what could be some of the issues if they were trying to fire him?
Well, I think one of them is the documentation. If it's not documented that you're not performing your job, then they can't say, oh, you're just fired. It's like, okay, why am I fired?
Exactly, because he'd been getting good marks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to let them know what they're doing wrong so they can fix it if they, if they can. And if they
Give them a
don't,
chance.
then, but you got to give them enough warnings and that they have to be aware that you're going to be firing them. Or, that you're kind of considering that.
Yeah.
You can't just, I don't know, I think it's not fair for, employee and, well, employer to just go and fire somebody unless they have good reason to. They can't just say, oh, you're not, you don't seem like you're doing good enough, so I'm going to fire you today. They
Yeah.
have to kind of let them know. Like people, if they let them know, like they're not performing, and if they don't keep performing, then, you can give them warning and say, oh, you have to meet this, and then you have this many days to, work on it or something. And if they don't meet it, then they know they didn't perform really well, and so they kind of expect, something like that would happen. And I think that's funny fair, but if they don't get any warnings, then it's not really fair.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. So in here it also talked about, for Terry, the possibility of an implied contract. So I don't know, they might have something in writing with him.
Yeah.
And then also age discrimination. I mean, these are things that they could come back and say.
Mhm.
With Phil, possibility of the disability discrimination, since he'd lost so much time at work.
Yeah.
But the hard thing about that is his coworkers and stuff was donating their vacation time to help him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, would it be kind of hard to say, "Oh, we're going to fire you because of you can't work," but they
But we'll
are.
give you all this vacation time, so yeah, I hear you.
So it's got to be. It's either you are going to do it or you're not. If you're not going to do it, don't fire him. And if you are going to do it right then and there. Don't string it along. Just get it done.
Yeah, which brings us to the next question, which I think that answered for Phil. What ethical obligation does the manager have? So yeah, just like you said, you can't sit there and donate all this time and then be like, oh, we're going to fire you because you weren't here. Yeah. What does the company ethical obligation to the boys, or not boys, the guys? Do you think the company has any ethical obligation?
No, because I still think they can fire you for the sky is blue or firing you.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there's companies that does that, and then it's like it's bad. I don't agree with it, but it happens.
Yeah. What about the other employees? Do you think they have any ethical issues involved in this? I don't know. I don't.
Well, didn't they say because Terry was liked by the management, the other employees recognized that and didn't agree with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do think it creates a negative work environment.
Yeah.
And especially where he's not doing his work.
Yeah.
And it said that he was always asking questions, which then means he's disrupting everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Well, when the manager has to say, you have to go do this yourself, that's a clue. That is a clue.
Yes, yes. So this was kind of interesting. And here it says, for Terry, he could be dangerous because they talked about how he has guns in his car because he likes to go shooting. The top management wants to retain him, like you said, and he has been given high scores in the past. How ethical is it to terminate out of the blue? And so those were some of their things they brought up. And with Bill, thinks he should get a promotion, which I thought that was interesting. They said if you don't have a promotion within 3 years, you're fired. And he's been there how many? 6?
Yeah, that's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. His group has been rallying around him during his illness. How would terminating him impact the morale of the rest of the employees? I hadn't thought of that one. Because maybe they've gotten closer to him, helping him, and and everything.
Well, if they can terminate somebody who is sick, that the team and everybody's trying to support and help, if they would terminate him, how would the other team members? Well, they can fire me for anything. They can fire Phil for being sick. They can fire me for any reason. So
Yeah,
that
not
would
a
be
good
a really
atmosphere.
really negative thing.
Yeah. Okay, so the analysis of company's HR practice. How well is the company in this case doing with its HR practices generally?
Not so good.
I don't think
That's
so.
what I
No.
That's what I was thinking. To me, it just seems like there's too much flexibility, and
Yeah.
nothing's written down, and people
No
are given
consistency.
false
Yeah,
stuff.
they need to have more structure, I think. Like
Yeah,
any companies to work, they have to have certain policies and procedures put into place. Like, and if it's like, even if it's a small company, I think that's important to have, because if not, then you don't know, anything can happen, and it's just up to the management. But
Yeah.
if the people have those kind of things in place, then both sides knows what to expect and what to do.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So how should the company hire? It says, how do they hire? And we're talking about the HR. From what it read, it sounds like you're interviewed by a couple different people, and if it didn't really specify, did it? But other than if all three say no, then you're out. So I don't know. What if one says yes?
Yeah.
It
Or what
doesn't.
kind of criterias are they looking at?
Right.
I don't know what their decision, like what their, decisions is based on.
Yeah, and how Terry got all no's, but then still got hired.
Those
So
are
that's
high.
kind of,
That's
Yeah.
kind of weird.
yeah.
Inconsistent.
Yeah.
So what are some ideas of how do they manage people and give them feedback? Well, it sounds like they
We don't give.
give them that point system every 6 months is what it said.
Right.
Yeah, like the 2.5, like 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering, do they get feedback if it's, if it's acceptable, or do they only get feedback if it's below acceptable? Because they need both.
It needs both, but it doesn't say anything on this.
It
Yeah.
kind of. Well, it kind of says like if they're. Well, yeah.
It
Well,
talks a
if they-
Little bit
Sorry.
about if they're not meeting standards, they get notice, and then if they're barely meeting standards, but
Yeah, so it kind of seemed to me that only if they were doing a bad job did it talk about it.
That's it.
But then the one manager said, though, that she's really frank with her team, and that she praises them, but she also tells them when they're doing bad.
yeah,
And it's constructive criticism, and it said that, they take it well. And I think it's because she does tell them when they're doing a good job, and you got to be able to have both. If you're only being told you suck, it's going to get your morale down, and
yeah.
it's not good.
I mean, nobody's gonna want to work for them,
No.
Mhm.
I mean,
and nobody's
yeah,
gonna want to improve and do their job.
yeah, exactly. Okay, do employees get a clear picture for the company, how they're performing? I mean, we kind of already answered that if
No.
they're not getting evaluated or feedback good enough, then no. And do you guys remember what the PIP was for?
Well, isn't the PIP getting you ready to be fired?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
And,
oh, lovely.
yeah. Do you guys agree with the way how the company uses that?
If it's uniform, if it covers for everybody, and then if it's a way to say, oh, by the way, if you are not performing this, we're rating you at this, you have, 30 days, 60 days to turn yourself around and change it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would work. But if they just say, oh, we think you suck, you're fired. Well, what's the point of using it?
Yeah. I agree. Do you think this manager can make good decisions about these two individuals, or does she seem to be influenced by bias that will be hard to overcome?
I think they were being influenced by their upper people saying, why are you writing him 2.5 instead of a 3.0, and trying to convince him to change his ratings.
Which I thought was interesting. The reason, and it seemed like to me, the only reason they were upset was because they're the ones that kind of hired him, and so it would make them look bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I thought, huh. All right. So we get to commit to a decision about what the manager should do with respect to Philip and Terry. So you guys each get to tell me what you think you would do.
If I were that person?
If you were the manager, what would you do?
Well, me being the jerk of a person I am, I would fire Terry for not performing the job. I would encourage and see if Phil can, now he's feeling better, he's recovered, what can he do to be promoted? Does he need training? What does he need to stay within the company? I think it was like you have two different directions. One person's performing, one person is trying to and had been. I would keep the person who's trying and fire the person who is not working.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you do?
I don't. Well, it's hard. I think.
Come on, you're a manager.
What?
You're a man. You have to make the decision.
I know, but I think Terry's not performing, and Phil is kind of trying to anyway. I think I still would give them. I think I would have more structure and more documents before I fire them. Give them a way to improve themselves, like warning, I guess.
They have the ratings.
They have the rating, but she hasn't been warned. Well, Terry, I guess.
Terry, yeah.
Warned. I mean, I guess they, performance. But I think I would prefer to have like a policy or something. Like they have 3 chances, and if they don't meet qualifications and have 3 warnings, they're fired. Then I feel better about it than just go and say, okay, you're not performing so good, then I'm gonna fire you. And I think it's kind of more fair for them. Since I don't know,
what would you do with
they
Phil,
don't
though?
have those kind of policies, before this happened. I don't know, maybe they do, but it seems like they don't. And so for me, it's going to be hard to just say, okay, you're not performing, then you're fired, And I'm kind of afraid that if I do that, then he'll get mad and come back, So, but Phil, yeah, like you said, I would find a ways to give him more opportunity to improve and grow because he is trying.
Mm-hmm.
But then he has to be, I don't know, I think there has to be a way that we can't be doing that, everybody can't be giving him vacation time and all that stuff all the time, every year. So we have to kind of let him know what is a limit, set up a boundary or how many, days.
It's okay for you to be sick this year, but next year you can't be sick?
No, but I mean, he has to know that he can't expect that every year,
True.
I mean, there is exceptions, and yeah, if he gets sick and, if he has a legitimate reason, there's nothing we can do about that, but and we can't discriminate just because of that, but he can't expect that, He can't expect everybody to just give him those kind of times. maybe if he gets sick next year, he can't really, he'll just have to take the time off but not get paid or those kind of things. So.
All right, so here's a question. What message will not firing Terry then send to the other employees?
Oh, if you're a friend to the boss, you're okay.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. So are there any alternatives? Are there any alternatives to to not fire Terry, I guess? You kind of talked about some. I think there would definitely have to be some very structure, but to me, I think he's been given enough chances. He knows he's not doing well.
Yeah.
And fire him out.
Yeah. So do you think there's any creative options? Like I thought with Phil, it seemed like he was really good with talking with the customers, where everybody else on the team was more numbers, kind of geekish in a way, I guess. And so he was kind of like that go-between. And I thought that was kind of good. So, maybe if they could find more opportunities like that for him.
Yeah. Or if he's good at it, maybe he can be, he can change it's not, I guess, role in the, he's, what do you call it? Not position, but, what he's hired for. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
This kind of
would have to be a change, title change probably.
Yeah, title change or things like that. Because a lot of the companies do those kind of things. Like you get hired for one position and they see you, you're better at certain things, and they kind of have a need for that in a company. Then they kind of, either create the position and then talk to you about it, or they, suggest, oh, there's an opening for this, and I think you'll be really good for it. And, they can kind of move into that position. And that seems to work really well for some companies, at least my husband's been into. He was hired for something, and then they saw something, different in him, and they just created a job for him pretty much and said, we want you to do this instead because I think you'll be really good at it. And so, yeah, I think he could be one of those, that's used somewhere else.
So did you guys read the follow-up to it, the 2 tough calls?
I didn't. I didn't read the follow-up.
No, you're fine. It just talked about, did you read it, Leonard?
I did not.
Okay. It just talks about what they actually did.
Okay.
And do you want me to just read it to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. For Terry. So I decided to give Terry a 2.5. I was very scared about doing it. I sat him down before the performance review came in, and I said, Terry, let's talk about what's going to happen when you get your review back. I'm going to give you a 2.5. He said, what? I thought I'd get a 3. Terry said he knew he wasn't going to get a 3.5, but he was definitely not happy about my plan. I talked with him and said we had recently hired a lot of people who were really superstars. I reminded him that on interviews, my hire no hire rate was about half of what most people's were. We now had really good people on the team, and he acknowledged this. I said things like, Terry, let's look who we've hired. What do you think about Michael? He'd say, well, Michael's a superstar. He's really great. He said the same thing about several others. Then I said, these are the people that we are hiring onto this team, and this is the new makeup of the team. How do you think you compare against these people on the team? He was honest and said, I couldn't do what they do. And I said, do you want to be constantly on the edge? There's a forced curve here. Do you want to be on a team where you are the weakest link on the team? Is that good for your career? Then I added that if I was on a team and wasn't one of the top performers, I wouldn't want to stay on the team. I said I would feel like I was spending all my time floundering. He seemed to accept that. So I said, Terry, listen, what happens after a 2.5 is that you get a PIP. I'm not going to put you on a PIP, and I don't want to put you on one. I don't think it's respectful of people to put them on it. I mentioned someone else who was fired and I told Terry this guy was on a PIP and reminded him of how the guy was escorted to his office and got a half an hour to clean out his desk. I said, Terry, I'm not going to let you go down that path. I like you as a person, and that's just dumb. But if you're not doing well on this team, I can tell you as both a friend and manager that for your sake, this is not a good position for you to be in. So let's get past the PIP. Let's forget about all of that. I want to help you find a better job in the company. And if you can't find one, then why don't you go out with a party, a big bang, with your head held high so that you were never on a PIP. It was a pretty heavy conversation, but he seemed to like the result of it at the end. I think he liked the fact that I told him he wasn't going to be on a PIP, that I wasn't going to do that to him. He asked how long he had, and I said, well, we will both know when you've had enough time to find another job. I'm not going to put any hard deadline on it. Why don't you give it an honest, fair shot? I don't know what that is, maybe 3 months or something. I'm not going to give you a date, but I would think that in 3 months, if there is a position for you in the company, you could have found it. I told my boss what I was doing. Terry spent time looking for another job, but everyone would go and ask his peers about him, and none of them had good feedback about Terry, so he couldn't get another job in the company. We had a big party for him. He wrote a letter to everyone saying that he was moving on to spend more time on scuba, which was his real passion. Eventually, he got a job in an engineering company and was promoted to manager. I heard he's doing a great job there because it's pure engineering, math and equations, which doesn't require analytical decision-making. He considers me a friend, and we keep in touch. So that's what happened with Terry. Phil, letting Phil go would have looked like we were firing him because he had been sick. Plus, he had been sick, and you don't fire a guy like that. And you just rallied the whole company around this guy, and everyone is so glad that he has survived and he became untouchable. What happened is that when he was gone, we hired a replacement for him. I asked HR what will happen when he got better and was coming back, and HR said they would create a new slot for him. So when he came back, he had already been replaced. He was just an extra person on the team. It wasn't really a problem for me, except for the time it took to manage him. I also had to make him happy. He'd been here a long time and had never been promoted, so I had to manage his expectations. I gave him a 3 on his review. The time it took me to manage him wasn't a big deal, so that was basically it. Because he knew my boss had a vendetta against him, he decided to leave the soft goods team when I left the company. He moved to another team. It took him because he was a free slot. I think he ended up on the international team, which was the only team that would take him because no one wanted to work on it. Their job was just to take basic product and make it French friendly or German friendly. We continued to be friends, and I heard he kept getting 3s. About a year later, he was diagnosed with an inoperable brain cancer, and he had to leave the company for good. He died about not too long after that.
It's kind of what we expected.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is kind of what, I think the manager did good.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already kind of talked about what was effective and what wasn't effective. And
I think the solution with the Terry was very creative.
yeah, I thought that was good. Like, hey, let's find somewhere else in the company, but it's interesting he couldn't find anything because no one liked him. No one had anything good to say about him.
Yeah, but I think it's good that he did that for him, and he still was able to keep it together,
Yeah, it's kind of safe face.
Yeah, because if he were just to get fired, then, he would have gotten mad or didn't feel right, and who knows what he would have done. He could have come back and sued or, done something.
Yeah.
But
so what can we learn about the case, about making decisions about termination? To me, I kind of, it's obviously not a one fits all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there's got to be guidelines, but there's also got to be
It's okay to be
Give it to 'em.
creative.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's really
It's like,
important.
Yeah. I think you got, like, if you're an employer or if you're the HR person, you kind of need to think about the person that's getting fired. I mean, it's okay to fire somebody, but it all depends on how you do it.
Mhm.
Like, you can fire somebody, but you can fire it with, good terms, I guess.
Yep.
That them being happy and you being happy. It's kind of more like a mutual agreement type of things instead of, you're not performing, so I'm going to fire you. And they go mad and, you don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
Or in that situation where you say, this is a bad situation, maybe you should find something else, give him the time to do it,
Hmm.
and he's not fired. It's not on his resume saying that he was fired. He left on good terms.
Hmm.
The company was fine. He was fine. I think open and honest communication between the manager and him made it better for him in the long run, also better for the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it said here, what did you guys learn that you could apply in future situations? I think being creative. I really like that idea.
Hmm.
So, okay, well that's it.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yay.
I know. Do you guys want to create a Google Docs for the doohickey problem, or?
I can do it. I can do, yeah, and send
Okay.
it up.
That sounds good. That way we can kind of get going on it, and I would love to have everything done by next week.
Oh, that would be nice. Oh.
I don't know what'll happen, but I would really like it.
Yeah.
How does
Well,
your
I
next week
know
look?
they were saying, I think it's due 16th. The doohickey paper, I think, is due on 16th. So we do have little time, but if we can get most of it in next week, shoot for next week and weekend, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking. If that's, if we're just doing this week and next week's on it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then if we get it done by like the next time, they've got the 14th, 15th, to 16th to review, edit, make it pretty,
Hmm.
and then submit it.
So
Yeah.
I'll send out the Google Doc. Do you want to send a reminder email or something sometime?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
can
know.
do that.
Yeah, how many people will really get on it?
Okay,
Mhm.
I'll do that tomorrow.
And then, yeah, I'll put notes explaining what the, Brother Boney has said. So
Okay,
we
how it's going to be a little bit different this time.
Yeah.
Okay,
shorter.
perfect.
Yeah. So,
Sounds awesome.
all right.
Okay.
If you need anything, email or give me a call.
Okay.
We
I
only
can
have
help
one
with
more discussion, so that's good. Next
I
week.
know. It's exciting.
I know. Can't wait, right?
I'm just ready for school to be done for a while.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you're taking break though, right?
I am. I'm taking the next semester off. I've only taken, I think, 2 summers off in the last 4 years. So
Wow.
I'm ready for a break.
I think
Yeah.
my break next semester, I'm just going to take one class and
Oh, you're lucky.
keep plugging away.
That's
Yes.
I
Yeah,
have
well,
a full course. So.
kindergartner will be in school full time next year. So
Oh, that would be good.
yeah, so I'm going to go full time during the summer because they're on year round. So they start the day that our summer session starts.
Wow.
So, perfect. So yeah, I'll just go full time next year, and actually for only the summer and 2 semesters, and I'll be done.
Wow. That's good. I'll be done about the same time, I think. But yeah, I'm gonna take easy on summer, maybe 1 or 2 courses, and then full time next, and fall and winter. So we'll see.
Yeah, I love the short. I wish they had more short. I love to be able to just cram it in, get it done, and we're done.
Well, because summer is really short, huh?
Yeah.
I love it, but you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
I'll
gonna
see you
have that
guys next week.
time. All right.
Okay,
All right.
night.
Good night now.
Night.